Alright, so today we are going to read 4 stories that I found on Reddit, which are on the Reddit forums r/horror short stories and r/scary stories. So let's get on into it. I've been a paramedic for years. I just learned what happens after the heart stops. I'd worked the job for years. The sirens, the blood on the asphalt, the empty eyes of the ones who couldn't reach. I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of what stayed behind, in the heads of the ones still breathing. Every shift was the same. Race to the wreck, pump the chest, log the time of arrest. No feelings, just protocol. But that day, the routine cracked. The crash was brutal. The driver, a guy in his early 20s, had no pulse. His pupils didn't react. His skin was already turning pale. Medicine said, dead. Then I shunned my penline to his eyes and I heard it. A scream. Not a sound. His jaw was shattered. His lips were still. It came from inside my own. Frantic, terrified, alive. I'm alive. I can hear you. Don't stop, please. I froze for a second. I looked at my partner. He was calmly coiling the cables. That's it, buddy, he said, checking his watch. Logged the time. The voice inside me turned hysterical, scraping my brain like a trapped animal. Look at me, I'm here. I feel the code. Don't close that bag. That's when I understood. Death isn't a switch. Awareness doesn't leave instantly. It stays trapped inside a failing, cool body. It sees everything, feels everything, fully awake while the world buries you. I didn't start CPR. The monitor was flat. The protocol was clear. My fingers fumbled, but I zipped the black bag all the way up as the zipper closed. The voice broke into a hollow, hopeless sob. It's so dark. Please, I'm still warm. I thought she was acting weird at first. For some clarification, my girlfriend had been planning a trip to California for the last 4 months. Normally I'd have gone with her, but it was for her grandmother's birthday. She was old, and this could quite possibly been my girlfriend's last chance to take a trip with her. She had spent those 4 months meticulously planning, as she always did. And the week before the trip, she must have had at least 5 full bags packed for her week-long venture. You can never be too careful, she always told me. She was always the planning type, mapping things out, going over every possibility. It was one of those things I admired about her. She hated when things didn't go the way they were supposed to. That's why on the day of her trip, when I woke up to find her still lying in bed with me long after her early morning flight, I almost panicked. I shook her awake frantically, and her eyes slowly rolled open. She groggily asked why I was waking her, and when I told her the time, she didn't react how I expected her to. Instead of panicking herself or even calling her mom to let her know she might miss the flight, she simply rolled back over and shut her eyes again. Oh yeah, she groaned. The flight, honestly, it should be okay. Be okay, I responded, a bit flabbergasted. Don't you think you should at least call them to let them know? She grumbled lazily. No, everything should be fine, before she began snoring. Something else that was completely new for her. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't force her. I was just shocked, I guess. I just thought that maybe she had already talked to her mom and grandma. Maybe something had come up and she forgot to tell me. I just went to work like everything was normal. When I came back, she was still home. She looked absent. I found her sitting on the couch staring at a black TV screen. When I greeted her, she snapped out of it. Honey, I'm glad you're home, she chirped. Tell me everything that happened at work today. We spent the whole night chatting, but it was like her mind was somewhere else. I'd catch her drifting off into outer space. She thought too long about her responses. Her speech pattern was slower than normal, even though her face was one of excitement as we talked. I figured that something must have happened with her grandmother, so I asked her, "Hun, did anything happen to make you not want to go on your trip?" She stared at me for a while. Her smile disappeared. Her face was blank, but only a few split seconds before lighting up again. "No, not that I know of," she responded cheerfully. "Why do you ask?" "Just wondering," I replied cautiously. The next few days was weird. She never seemed to want to leave the house. I mean, not that I could blame her. She had already taken off work for the trip, but I figured she'd at least want to go to the park or something. It was one of our favorite things to do together. She also wasn't eating much. Every night I'd cook for us, but she kept insisting she wasn't hungry. Must have been a lie though, because on some of those nights, long after we got to bed, I'd find her in the kitchen completely surrounded by food. Cereal boxes would be ripped open with their contents scattered across the floor. Granola bar wrappers, spilt milk, raw rice and beans. It was concerning to say the least. By the end of the week, something hit me that I hadn't caught before. It was a dim light bulb lit over my head. I approached her timidly. "Honey?" I inquired carefully. "Yes, sweet boy of mine," she replied lovingly, sitting on the edge of our bed staring at a wall. I gulped a bit. "Whatever happened to your bags? Did you unpack them? I haven't seen your toothbrush or shampoo or anything anywhere." She didn't respond. She just kept staring, like the wall was the TV. Finally, she slowly turned around and her hollow eyes met mine. "Honey," she whispered gleefully, "you know that's none of your business." She didn't seem mad, but she refused to talk to me for the next 2 days. She didn't even want to sleep in the same bed as me. Of course, I had felt wrong making her sleep on the couch, so I just let her have the bed while I wallowed in my own confusion. It wasn't until the night before she was supposed to return from the trip that she let me sleep with her again, and even then, she slept with her back towards me. I woke up in the middle of the night to a ruckus coming from the kitchen. I stepped out of my room and noticed that the kitchen light was on. It sounded like an animal was loose in there, like it was in the process of devouring something. Growls, the wet sound of chewing, but as I approached, the sound suddenly stopped. I froze in my tracks for a few seconds, debating whether or not I should continue before ultimately deciding to keep going. Only when I took that last step, I heard my girlfriend's voice. It was angrier than I ever heard her, more hostile, like she was trying to send a message. "Go back to bed," she screamed. The house was silent for a moment. I argued with myself internally about whether or not to listen or check in on her. I decided to listen, and the moment I began making my way back up to the bedroom, the noise started up again. I don't know how long I laid there, staring up at the ceiling, trying to tell myself that everything was normal before falling back asleep. But I know that I woke up alone the next morning. The bathroom was empty, the halls were empty, the house was empty. I kept calling out and receiving no response, but when I entered the kitchen, that's when panic really set in. There was blood everywhere, not from my girlfriend, but from the raw meat that was scattered across the floor. Chicken, steak, pork, everything. Everything that had been nearly completely eaten. I thought back to the night before, and my heart started to pound. I felt dizzy. I felt like I was losing it. I tried to take a seat to calm myself, but before I could, the front door opened. "Honey," my girlfriend sung, "I'm home. Can you come help me with these bags? I've got so much to tell you." If you go down this road and pass the old mill, you'll see a little gray house up on a hill. The windows are all broken, and the door hangs from its frame. The front yard is tall weeds. The backyard's the same. The chimney crumbled into a pile of dust, rusty red. The only tree in the yard is twisted, blackened, and dead. It was once the home of Ichabod and Imrange Corn, who they say went mad after their daughter was born. It was late October. If I remember it right, she was born in that house on a dark and stormy night. Imogen screamed, then lightning struck that old oak, and Cadence Corn was born at midnight's final stroke. The next few years seemed normal, I suppose. That is, if you don't count all of the black cats that gathered beneath their windows. At first, it was only a couple. Then it was more than a few. Where they all came from, nobody knew. 13 in total, or so they do say. And they circled around Cadence whenever she went out to play. Her first day of school, oh, what a mess. The children all laughed at her name and made fun of her pretty orange dress, but the meanest among them was a little boy named Paul. He got the other kids to say, "Nobody likes candy corn, nobody at all." He giggled at this joke and thought himself real bright. Some say it was no coincidence that Paul's home burned down that very night. When Cadence left for school the next day, she merely skipped by the smoldering ruins along the way. Paul and his family made it out their house not a second too late, but they had to move in with Paul's Aunt Martha, who lived over in another state. I'm not saying that little Cadence was involved, but it was a strange mystery that has gone completely unsolved. A few years later, when Cadence turned 13, her father was committed, and never again was he seen. Her mother acted nervous, and her fits of laughter were not rare, but Cadence always smiled at people sweetly, as if she didn't care. I'm not sure why Ichabod and Imogen went insane, but the townsfolk all thought Cadence was the one to blame. Something about that girl unnerves me, confesses Mrs. McGrath. For those who don't know, she taught junior high math. Then in the teacher's lounge, rumors started to spread, all about the strange picture Cadence drew and the weird tales that she read. But the teachers did nothing. I suppose there was nothing to do, but things were quite different when Cadence turned 22. She was now a young lady who lived alone on the hill. You see, her mother was finally committed to a place for the mentally ill. The townies all knew she was conducting strange spells in the night. Mr. Franklin reported seeing her house bathed in the most unusual green light, and strangers were seen leaving her place, all with coats and wide-brimmed hats that cover their faces. We only see them leave there but never arrive. I have an awful feeling they aren't even alive, Mr. Clemens expressed. Then he slipped from the flask he kept in his pocket of his vest. We should do something before it's too late. You know, the other night I caught her skulking around the cemetery gate. The townsfolk all gathered at Wilbur's Bar and Grill. It was there that they conspired what to do with Cadence, who lived on the hill. We'll need some proof that she's up to no good, came the suggestion of a lady named Wilma Wood. What we do next, I really don't know. I guess we'll just play it by ears as we go. They all drew straws to see who should visit Miss Corn, and the privilege was given to the skeptical Reverend Lemuel Bourne. She hasn't done anything to warrant mistrust. I'll gladly pay her a visit, if it should quell all of this fuss, he said in a voice self-possessed and loud, hoping to be heard above the roar of the crowd. The next day he found himself at the front door. He knocked once, but there was no answer, so he knocked one more time. When he left that morning, his hair was raven black, but it was white as snow when he came back. Nobody knows what got under his skin, but he left town that very day and was never heard from again. Soon the figures and hats were seen in the street lights at night, and the people locked themselves in their homes out of sheer fright. They spied on the figures through their curtains and blinds, in hoping of answering all of the questions that weighed heavy on their fevered minds, but no clues were discovered. They were still in the dark. We'll run Candace Corn out of town, came a suggestion of one, Mr. Clark. What happened next, I'm not glad to say, because it wasn't this town's proudest day, when 34 angry people, and many of their children too, railed together and their confidence grew. Up on the hill, they all gathered in her yard. About that time, black clouds billowed and a cold wind started to blow hard. Despite this ill omen from the crowd, there came a shout. "Candy Corn, you're no longer welcomed in our town. We want you out." The ghostly moan of the wind was the only reply, so a boy chucked a rock, and through a glass window it did fly. They say that was the catalyst for the other extreme events so extreme. People of the town still remember hearing the scream. Imagine the panic when everyone learned of all people who went up there that day, only 6 of them returned. The townsfolk all left for destinations unknown. They decided it was better to leave Candace alone. So they left this town once and for good. None of them ever spoke of Candace Corn, and none of them ever would. Know this, you can still turn back now and be safe if you value your life, your well-being, and your sanity. Close your eyes and look away. I won't judge if you do. I wish I stopped here. I don't wish this upon anyone. If you're reading this, you're either brave or stupid. Regardless, you're still here. This is my final warning. Leave now and you'll have no consequences to your actions. Only curiosity to what might have been. Now let's begin from the start of the story. No one knows when it started or who was the first to experience its power. The earliest record was 1895 from an old personal journal, but the author told us that he was telling a tale passed down from at least 4 generations prior. Even then, it's unreliable to know the truth. Given the circumstances, the story is unknown these days. It's quite simple. It's only a single phrase, one sentence that would drive you mad. Insane, broken, haunted, cursed, call it whatever you want. You will be doomed. But there is a counter curse. It's far more dangerous than cursing itself, and it's not guaranteed. Never mind that. You want to know the story, right? How does the curse work? How does it affect you? Why did it drive countless souls to insanity? Victory comes to those who can wait. Defeat comes to the impatient. Before you know the story, you must know the effects. First, you stop dreaming altogether. Insomnia is next. No matter what, you will never sleep regularly again. You will begin to feel every second of every minute of every day. Time will pass very slowly for you, excruciatingly slow. Eventually, you will never be able to sleep again. Oh, and then there is the hunger. You will never feel full again. Regardless of how much you will stuff your face, nothing you eat will never fill you. You will feel severe hunger pain more and more each day. Later, you begin to lose some of your sight. It starts off simple at first. Eye strain, headaches, etc. Then they turn into migraines. And then one day, one of your eyes gets fuzzy. And then eventually, nothing. Eventually, you'll begin to notice something stinky. Extremely stinky. Your skin starts to rot, but it doesn't fall off you. It never will. You will always feel the decay of your body, but nothing can ease the pain. Then you lose the ability to externally express yourself. You can't talk, nod, write, or signal your hands. You just sit there, fully conscious on the inside. You feel the rot, hunger, exhaustion, your loved ones calling out to you, yet all you can do is sit motionless, a prisoner in your own body. Remember, you chose this fate. You chose to continue to read. This is your fault, your decision. In turn, you will slowly lose everything you hold dear, your life, love, and humanity. You will slowly turn into his puppet. So you want to know the phrase? You think you haven't read it yet? That you have a chance of survival? It's too late. You've already read it. You haven't realized it yet, but you have. Every night you shall remember this day, this decision, these words. You chose to read my words. Once you realize my name, it's too late. I'll see you soon. Sleep well, friend. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed today's videos. I enjoyed these stories. They're a little bit different this time around, but I do plan on doing more Reddit reading stories since that seems to do good on the channel. So if you like content like this, subscribe down below, like, comment, and share. I know that a lot of my viewers are not subscribed, so why don't you consider it? So I am working on that special video. It's taken a lot of time. I enjoyed it. I'm gonna post some behind the scenes content on my shorts, so go check that out. But until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.